Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're talking about episode 9 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, entitled All Those Who Wander. This is the kind of follow-up, I guess you'd say, to the earlier Gorn episode that we had in Strange New Worlds. It seems like they've definitely made the Gorn the big bad villain, I guess, in this first season of Strange New Worlds, and I think they've been a formidable adversary, I think, for the Enterprise crew. But they didn't get to face off against adult Gorn in this episode. They got to face off against the baby Gorn doo 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 baby Gorn doo doo. You get it. I won't do any more. That would be painful. But yes, it was an entertaining episode. It was kind of like Star Trek meets Alien or Predator. It was definitely a bit of a suspense thrill ride for this episode. There were definitely shades of both the Alien franchise and also the Predator franchise, I think, in this episode. I enjoyed it. It was a nice change of pace from last week's comedy episode where we had the Elysian Kingdom episode, and now we've got the horror episode of the season. So it was a fun change of pace. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please don't be scared to do so. Click on that big red button to stay up to date and current with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. So let's break down this week's episode, our second last for the season. I can't believe next week's our last episode for season 1. It's gone so quickly and I just want more. But anyway, let's take a look and see what this episode had to offer. So our episode starts with the Enterprise scheduled to deliver some much needed power cells to Space Station K7. You guys would remember Space Station K7 as the one that was in the original series episode Trouble with Tribbles. But we'd never get to see the station because obviously their mission gets hijacked to go and respond to this distress call from the USS Peregrine that's crash landed on this planet. Little do they know the reason why. The episode starts with a cute send-off ceremony. We've got Uhura and another Starfleet cadet that have been serving out some of their work experience on board the Enterprise. It seems like Uhura's time is up. She's kind of fulfilled her commitment to the work placement that she was doing on board. And is now potentially looking to move on. I love the sense of family and everything on Strange New Worlds. I think it's really cemented the crew and the cast in this show. And any scene where we've got Pike in his quarters entertaining the crew with some of his culinary delights, I think is always a nice scene. I think it really cements the crew as a family. And I love the scene where we've got Pike kind of going over the briefing and everything and making Spock do the dishes. Meanwhile Lan's eating some of the leftovers or whatever, and is very impressed by the standard of Pike's cooking. There's some lovely scenes in this episode, and I love the almost sort of casual and cavalier nature by which they're conducting this sort of quite serious mission briefing whilst Spock does dishes and Lan eats cheesecake or whatever it was she was eating. We get to find out that the crashed Federation starship is the USS Peregrine, which is a Sombra class. It looks very, very similar to a Constitution. I almost can't tell the difference between the Sombra class and the Constitution class. As Mbenga says in this episode, it's made with all the same parts as the Constitution, but I fail to see what the difference is. It looks almost identical in almost every respect. It was good that we saw, I think, the away team split up from the Enterprise. The Enterprise went off to deliver the power cells to K7, whilst Pike and the away team went down to the planet to see what had happened to the USS Peregrine. I love the way Pike phrased it in terms of taking the shuttles or, getting in the station wagon. Spock didn't know what a station wagon was, and Pike saying stuff like pile the kids into the station wagon for the road trip. Anybody needs to go to the bathroom. Now's the time because I'm not turning the car around. I think that was fun. I laughed out loud quite a bit at that line. I love the humour in Strange New Worlds. It's good that we don't have to be so serious all the time, and we can throw a few humorous lines in there now and then because our crew has a little bit of a sense of humour. They don't have to be quite so formal and straight-laced. It's lovely and refreshing. So Pike takes the away team to the planet. They start investigating. Obviously, we've got the big, sense of the crashed USS Peregrine. The scope that they achieve on this show, I think, particularly, I guess it's using the AR wall technology, but it looks fantastic. The crashed ship on the planet with the away team, getting ready to investigate and everything. It's, it's building the tension, building the suspense and everything. It creates this sort of sense of a majestic scale on this show. It's, it's not a little tiny show. It's got a huge scale, which is great. Before long, we find out that crew members have been dead. We've got blood trails on the ground. We've got people having been picked apart by some unknown foe. And before long, we find out that, people on board the ship picked up a couple of hitchhikers. They were infected with Gorn eggs. It would seem the Gorn aren't that dissimilar to the xenomorphs in the Alien movie franchise. I think there was a few little parallels in this episode, not only to the Alien film franchise, but also the Predator film franchise. Let's face it, the Gorn seem to breed in a similar fashion to the aliens in Alien in terms of, squirting you with slime, which then, I guess, burrows into your skin, and then, little tiny aliens burst out of your body, and then they grow very fast and they turn into big Gorn, and they have thermal vision, much like the Predator. There's a few little nice parallels to other sort of, I guess, alien horror franchises, whether it be Predator or Alien. We then meet the blue alien Buckley, which I think we haven't seen his race before. He's a brand new alien species. Universal Translator can't translate him. But I like the prosthetics. I like the puppetry and everything. It's sort of a combination of probably a bit of puppetry, a bit of, live action stuff, and maybe even a bit of CG mixed in as well. It's a really well done alien, actually. And I guess they needed him not to be able to communicate with the Universal Translator, because then he couldn't say, hey guys, I'm full of Gorn eggs. He just had to kind of moan and groan, and then all of a sudden they burst out of him. And we have the human girl, Oriana, which is, let's face it, this episode's version of Newt from Aliens, We didn't get any lines like, they come out at night, mostly come out at night, mostly, but, let's face it, we were all thinking it. And through all of this, Uhura is kind of questioning her place in Starfleet. She joined for maybe not the best reasons, but, she's sort of not quite sure where her place is. And I love the scenes in this episode between her and Hema, Hema trying to kind of assure her, what she needs to feel fulfilled in life and in her career and everything. And he gives her a nice little pep talk in this episode, which, the start of this episode, we're, seeing Uhura leaving the Enterprise. And by the end of the episode, I think, Hema's certainly talked her around, a bit to the point where I think maybe she's going to stay. So this episode, we also saw some slightly larger grown versions of Gorn. Not fully adult Gorn, but maybe sort of children or children versions of Gorn, I suppose, in what we see in this episode. And let's face it, they are moving a lot faster than what we saw, the Gorn move in original series. I think they can move a bit quicker than that. We haven't known a huge amount about up until now. Needed a little bit more mythology about them and a little bit more, a few more scary campfire stories told about them to give them an edge, which I think this episode definitely gave them. The other parallel to the Aliens franchise was when Sam Kirk was freaking out. He was freaking out about these aliens. His little freak out almost reminded me of Bill Paxton's performance in Aliens. I almost expected Sam Kirk to say, game over, man, game over. I think that would have been fun. We get to see a larger version of the Gorn when Hema gets slimed, and this poor old Hema getting slimed by the Gorn, it doesn't end well for poor old Hema, and I was really disappointed in the fact that Hema was absent for a few episodes in the middle of the season, and we kind of just got him back last episode, and then we lost him in this episode. It's like, really? Oh, damn. I reckon Hema was a really good character. And I'm quite disappointed that they've killed him off so early in the show's run. That seems like it was an unnecessary action. I think poor old Hema, I think we only sort of barely got to know him. He seemed like such a great character and was all set to be a fan favourite, I think, And he's thrown himself off a cliff full of Gorn eggs. What a shame. I mean, I get that, we probably have to, throughout the course of Strange New Worlds, slowly, I don't know, bring in our original series crew and introduce, you know, whether it's Scotty or whoever else is coming on board. But that could have waited until season 2 or 3, surely. We could have had another season with Hemmer in it before we booted him out the door quite so quickly. We see Spock embracing his human side a bit more in this episode, screaming and charging at the Gorn, you know, and then having obviously trouble coming back from that in the post memorial scene at the end of the episode, where they were, you know, he had to sort of walk out of the room because his angers and feelings and frustrations or everything, you know, he's having trouble controlling them. So it definitely seems like our Spock in Strange New Worlds is a little bit more human and a little bit less Vulcan than he was by the time we get to original series. Good to see Lan and the crew take out the final Gorn in the cargo bay there by freezing it, and you know, and Lan using the frozen Gorn as a bit of a Gorn pinata there at the end there. Obviously, a bit of therapy in that action on her behalf. So by the end of this episode, we are kind of a little bit up in the air in terms of where some of our characters are going to be, because not only do we have Hemmer sacrificing himself after being infected, and obviously it seems like there's no way back for his character. We've got Lan going and taking Oriana, try to find her family. She's requesting a leave of absence to go and see if she can rescue her, because obviously she sees herself in the young girl as someone who had been traumatized with a you know, fairly graphic Gorn event at probably around the same age. So she's going to help her out and taking a bit of a break to do that, and it seems like we might be getting Uhura staying. There wasn't a definite confirmation, but I guess after Hemmer's pep talk to Uhura, it seems more likely that she'll be hanging around a little bit longer, whereas at the start of this episode she was due to leave the Enterprise for good after finishing her training cycle on board the ship. So yeah, let's I guess see what happens in the final season finale episode in terms of what our crew are up to. But it seems we're down at a chief engineer, we're down a chief of security, and we're potentially down, but probably not, down a communications officer. So yeah, we'll see where that leads. All in all, I quite enjoyed this episode. I think it was a very nice change of pace to last week's kind of quirky comedy kind of episode. We've gone from comedy to horror. I'll be interested to see where we go for our season finale, because we've definitely run the gambit of a lot of different genres this season, and I think it's shown a really nice range of exactly what the show can achieve, you know, from one end of the spectrum to the other. Guys, please leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think of this episode? Did you like this this horror episode or suspense thriller episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds? Let me know what your thoughts were in the comment section. Please leave a super thanks if you're able to. It really helps the channel out. Much appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and check out my merch in the merch store, where you can pick up all my, you know, Star Trek and sci-fi, you know, themed t-shirts like this one, hoodies, mugs. This is probably one of my most popular designs, with all of the Enterprise, all the starships and their captains and everything. Yeah, check them out. It helps support the channel, and you've got a bargain as well. I'll be back very soon with my next video. I'll see you guys soon.